Welcome to a retrospective on Forza Motorsport 7. I thought it'd be a good idea to go back to this old game and talk a bit about it, especially since I've recently been actively playing this and I have a few things to say about it, especially in regards on how I think the next one will land. Speaking of which, I'll be referring to the next Forza Motorsport as either Forza Motorsport 8 or Forza 8 in short because, in my opinion, it's quite ridiculous trying to relaunch, reboot, reset the entire series. There isn't really anything to actually reboot, like a story or something like that. But I think that the game should have a story. I think it's better off as it is. But yeah, what are you rebooting? Really nothing. It's just the next entry after 7, and therefore should be called 8. Anyways, about the game itself, I recently came back to it, as I said. I went on a bit of on a search for something that could scratch my Simcade racing itch. Tried out different Gran Turismos, tried out other Forzas, and this is the only one that did it for me. Forza Motorsports in particular. I didn't really go into Forza Horizon. You may think this is an endorsement with me saying, yeah, that this one is finally the one that works for me. The thing is, I see this more as a statement on the sad state of Simcade racing, especially regarding these two series. I didn't try out any other games from different developers. There may be something good out there, but finding that was not on my mission list here. So yeah, what's the deal with this game? While I absolutely enjoy the driving and all that, it is riddled with bugs and some issues that should have really been fixed years ago, and with how it's been left in end of life state, it really feels like being abandoned. And it was abandoned quite a few years ago, and there are a few things that even can keep a large amount of player base who actually bought this game from even being able to play it. And that's some stuff I want to shine a light on in this video. So yeah, this is not gonna be all that positive, as it may tell, but I hope it will at least be either informative or a bit funny with some of the stuff I'm poking at here. So let's start out by getting into one of the biggest issues I found. I recently built myself a new PC with AMD parts equipped. Forza 7 and AMD apparently don't go well together anymore. My old PC also had an AMD card and that was fine. However, there is a not even too new issue with the game sometimes freezing to desktop for people who have AMD GPUs. And I will absolutely blame this game due to how very specific those crashes are. It's something that only happens on specific tracks, for example the short version of Circuit de la Sarthe, better known as the Bugatti circuit. Watkins Glen is one where a lot of people have issues. It's also a very popular track, so likely a lot more people play that. I also encountered this bug at Mount Panorama, which is one of my most favorite tracks in this game, and also one that we won't be seeing in 8 apparently. That's a sad day. And it likely also happens at a few other locations. I don't have a complete list, but the thing is, especially or it's always, well, it seems like towards the end of a lap, there is usually a particular spot where the game will just freeze and crash the desktop after a few seconds. It doesn't happen every lap, but usually with what I found, if you have a 10 lap race on a track that is affected by this bug, chances are you're never going to finish that race, no matter how often you try. Especially on the Bugatti circuit, I usually have that bug happen on the first 4 laps or something. So tough luck. Few tracks for those people are just not usable at all. It is very unclear what that bug caused. And when going to some official pages for Microsoft or whatever, you're only going to see the most basic bug fixes like try to lower the graphics settings and all that. It's not the issue. I don't know what the issue is, but that's definitely not it. The solution that I found that works for myself, but apparently not for everybody else, was from a Reddit thread, and I basically just rolled back my AMD graphics drivers to a version from 2021. So that's more than 2 years ago. It has definitely a negative impact on everything else that I want to play with this PC, and it's not a solution that I would like to have in the long run. But right now it at least allows me to play this game as long as I care to do so quite regularly. For later down the line I may need to maybe keep the install files for both the latest and this old driver version just at hand in order to be able to switch back and forth if I come back to this game at some point. And considering all the stuff they have taken out from the next game compared to here, I may most likely come back. So it's not like even if Forza 8 is better in every other aspect, there are still going to be some tracks and cars missing, and that might be a reason to come back here if those are of certain significance for me, and especially some of the tracks like Bathurst, they are significant to me. So yeah, this is a bug that just happens every now and again, only affecting AMD GPUs and no fix inside. So that's a bit of a weird situation. Speaking about the whole graphics thing, let's talk about the graphics menus here. They are a bit weird. Overall, there's a lot of stuff here that we can take a look at, that we can adjust, which is cool. Standard is always dynamic, which is a bit of a weird thing. And I noticed, especially on my weaker GPU back in the day, the game would sometimes slow down, maybe then lower a few settings here and there, then speed back up and have that going all the time. It's not amazing, and it's always better to just have concrete settings that don't change again. But when you may run into something that I recently also saw, you just boot up the game again and everything is set back to dynamic. Great. Also, it seems like that sometimes performance target, the FPS limit, isn't really applied. Sometimes it's stuck to 30 FPS for me. Sometimes when having it to 60, it's all the way up to 144 or whatever. So, weird stuff happening. As well as when loading up the game, sometimes it just doesn't go into full screen, even though that's the setting that you set here. So you have to go back to the menu, set that up, and yeah, then it works. The game is just not very consistent in the day. Other inconsistencies before getting into the actual content are the menus. This stuff is really just set up to look great, but functionality is second thought here, and it doesn't really work all that well. The home tab does have all different kinds of stuff here, but nothing regarding the actual cars. Those are like 4 tabs further behind, where you can actually buy a car, go to your car collection and switch them out for different ones, apply upgrades or even customize the car. And you know, one of the few things I didn't talk about is the top left option, which is of course always when you switch tabs, that's always the one that you default to. Car collection is the most useless part about this entire setup here. It's just a very overloaded site that kinda gives you the basic structure of the game. The way this all works, when you start out, you have very few cars and your car collection is at level 1. You now need to buy cars, which will increase that level until you get to level 2, where you can actually buy a few more cars. And yeah, this absolutely involved me buying a few cars that I didn't care about, only to be able to get to the next tier, and so on. I get that this is likely done for accessibility options, so that people can get to the cars they want to use in multiplayer, without having to go through the entire Drivers Cup, which is basically the single player campaign. I get that, I just don't enjoy this entire thing. The best the game has done regarding all this stuff is you can level up getting XP and all that, and that will allow you to choose between different rewards. Either getting a huge discount on a car, maybe a bit more credits, and some other stuff I don't really care too much about. So at least the game allows you to not be just overloading your entire garage of cars that you don't want. You can always say, no, I don't want that, just give me a bit of money and I'm good to go. But apart from that, this entire car collection thing, it's useless. Doesn't even give you many things about the car that you may want to buy. Yeah, you can buy things here, but it doesn't tell you the amount of power, how heavy it is, the different stats and all that. So this is very much useless, especially compared to the buy car option, where you by standard have everything sorted by the different manufacturer, and you can see the different bars for speed, handling, acceleration and braking at the bottom, as well as for overall power rating. So you have a letter for the class, in which case this is an R class car, with a power rating of 874, and that's all good. But the thing that is my main issue regarding the whole car class system is that the game has gone pretty reliant on divisions. Divisions are basically subclasses where the devs have already put a lot of cars into those subclasses, and they all have a certain cap where it will tell you which tires to use, how light the car can be, how much power it can have, and the overall power score for it. I think that's the main things that it's actually limiting you on. And the thing is, the game does not allow you to change that division for a car. So maybe some of those cars you can put into different classes, not divisions, but just say you want to level this up to an A-class vehicle. There aren't that many events that actually make use of that. There is some in multiplayer, but still, for the most part, the cars are kind of limited to the different divisions they are in. And I'm pretty sure there's another muscle car division here somewhere. Not gonna try to find it right now, but yeah, those are different cars, and you cannot say take one from the lower end class and just upgrade it until it can race with the big boys. That sadly doesn't work, and it's one of the issues I have with the game. For some of the cars it actually works pretty well, like the early prototype racers. So these are all 1990s, 1980s different prototypes. So they have a general theme overall, and they wouldn't fit too well into other classes. You could theoretically just raise these to the top of P class and race them against whatever you may encounter them. Some stuff I don't really care too much about here, so that's all good, but still, yeah, some of these are so close together, like the early sport touring and early sport luxury. Maybe you could have some overlap here. Maybe it would be better to have some cars in both divisions at the same time, or just being able to choose what you want to classify them as. But there are a few huge problems I have with this stuff. Elite Factory Racers being one of them. These are pretty iconic, mostly late 90s cars, apart from the F40 Competizione. These are the only versions of the cars that are available in this game. There is no racing version of any of these. And the game has kinda gotten around that issue by making the division in a way that you would upgrade them into what they would where they would essentially be racing cars. So you add an aftermarket spoiler, you add racing tires, you add a lot of power, and then they go real quick, which is nice. Problem is, if you're doing this against NPCs, especially in free mode, which I'm using quite often, so that's where you can set up your own races, this would be a nice class to have. Problem is, if you use this for NPCs and maybe yourself are driving with LMP prototypes, these are all looking like this. Stock, single color, no livery and all that. And they are like, why is this street car in this mode? I'll be talking more about free mode in a moment, because that's my darling in this game. But yeah, even if you are just making a race with this division alone, you might be the only one that actually looks the par for a race class, and everything else will be more like stock standard. That's one of the bigger issues with this. Let's take a look at Forza GT, which is another thing where I think they missed the mark by quite a bit. Forza GT consists of cars from all over the place, mostly racing cars apart from the Expo, which is also marked as GT4, so I guess it counts, it just doesn't have a livery for whatever reason. But the thing is, there are cars from GT4, like this Cayman, there are some GT3 cars, and that goes all the way up until GT1. And they have all been homologated into something that's GT3 or GT2 class level. I think it's more towards GT3. So this is just bunching up a lot of cars that would not really fit together all that well. And some of them, they are just... I mean, some of these are supercars, the rest sports cars, or some even not really looking the part for this division overall. I mean, for fuck's sake, this is a front-wheel driven Audi TT. Doesn't or shouldn't really work with this kind of setup. And my main issue about this is that while they have been adding more cars to this over time, until they stopped working on this game altogether, if you want to do like a proper GT4 class race where you don't homologate any of the cars but have one GT4 class or GT3, GT2, GT1, none of these have enough cars in them to work. There's only a few here, a few there, a few in between, a few that don't really fit into anything it seems. But there isn't really much to do in order to set up a proper race of something specific. If you want to go with JGTC, for example, so the Japanese Super Touring cars, this is the only one available. There is no NSX, there is no Supra, there is no other stuff in that range. You could maybe tune something, but for other NPC drivers, I mean, you could have Ford GT enter that, whatever. But still, if you want a proper JGT class race, this is the only one available. Good luck with that. German touring cars, for example, another big one, especially when you look at Gran Turismo. Really nothing here. There are a few German cars, which is nice, but overall nothing that I would identify being from German touring cars or DTM as I know them. So yeah, that's a bit of a weird thing, and I don't see this becoming better by removing more cars in the next game, or just having fewer cars in Forza 8. So yeah, I don't know. Other stuff here is pretty good, like Forza P1, Forza P2. I'm glad they didn't throw those together, but again, for Forza GT, I wish there were either multiple more subdivisions or at least enough cars from each regular GT to allow to make proper races with that and get a bit more variety. Forza Specials is another can of worms, because this is actually the division of cars that don't have a division. So these are all one-offs, and I tried to set up a few races where I had multiple prototype kind of cars, and I want to have a division where I would actually use this one. The game crashed. Whenever I try to set up a division that just has these cars, and yeah, you can have multi-class racing in single player, which is, it's absolutely amazing and all that, but yeah. Doing something specific, like trying to get a division of these cars, the game will just crash and give up on you because I don't know why. And we'll take a look at that in a moment, but there are multiple ways to set this up, and all of them that include only this car lead to the entire thing failing for some reason. And yeah, so much about the divisions. So I wish they were a bit more open. I would ideally love to just be able to take a road car, fit it with proper racing parts, including proper front and rear spoiler, and then just be able to tune it into maybe a low GT kind of class and be able to use it there. But we can do that with S-Class, and that's amazing. with some of the other stuff, it just doesn't work, and overall, these divisions are very, very restrictive. And single player especially makes use of a lot of that, and therefore, yeah, I'd rather go free play then, where I can set up my own race with all the restrictions that I want to set. But that's kind of time consuming. You have to do some reading for some of the stuff, especially if you need to remember certain division names, because a lot of them seem to be not that obvious once you get at all the different options. But yeah, I guess enough about the cars right now. Let's talk about tracks. And therefore, let's just go into free play so we can have a look at the different tracks. Right now, in Forza 7, there are quite a few different environments. But what plays the game, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, I'm not alone here, a lot of the stuff doesn't necessarily make for good racing, especially in certain classes and all that. And they have taken some of these trails out for the next game. Some of them I'm not even too sad about. Some of them I'm just indifferent, and some of them I will be missing. Overall, I don't think it's the greatest idea to just remove content like that, because some people will always love that specific track, but yeah. I think there should be better ways to deal with this, like, for example, making sure that maybe when you're doing a prototype race, you're not going onto a very tight street circle that absolutely cannot support that kind of stuff. But it is what's happening here sometimes. So things like Rio de Janeiro have been taken out. And yeah, I recently had one of the league races where I had to go onto that track, and it's just absolute carnage with those old prototypes like the Mazda 787B. Really didn't enjoy that kind of stuff, and it just happens all the time. Multiplayer overall has a voting system, not in the league system, but in the regular one, where you get three options: a randomly chosen track, another randomly chosen track, and then random to pick whatever, because those two randomly chosen tracks are not amazing. Most of the time, random is being voted for because the game doesn't always do well with the different options. I mean, when you just look at this kind of stuff, Rio de Janeiro has 10 different versions, including different reverse versions and shorter, different layouts. So this will count tenfold compared to something like Laguna Seca. And yeah, it happens, or it used to happen quite often, that both of the options that you got were basically the same. So maybe you had one layout for Rio, and then second version was another one. And in that case, most likely everybody's going to vote random because nobody wants to do the track. Same with Yes Marina and maybe some other stuff, but things that I will be missing are, for example, Mount Panorama, because I absolutely love Bathurst. And yeah, I'm a bit sad about that going, but again, ideal solution, not have that in like high-speed lobbies, maybe have some of the tracks more for slower classes and all that. But at this point, if I just remove some of the stuff that nobody wants to, or a lot of people don't want to play anyways, might be for the better right now, if I can't be asked to do a more balanced approach. Overall, maybe adding a bit more or a few more tracks that just are generally well received might be a better option. I hope that at least Forza Motorsport 8 will just add more tracks over time. I know that right now Nordschleife is not going to be part of the release, but that should come at a later date. I hope that wouldn't take too long. But then again, Nordschleife is usually overused by a lot of games it's in. Let's face it. Still, I hope that's not going to be the only track that will be added after the fact. So, yeah. Not gonna repeat myself again. I think that's the end and everything that I have to say about the tracks. Let's now get into free play itself. We're already in the menu, so let's just have a look around. Because I think this is the best make your own race tool that you can have at this point. Would maybe be nice if you could set up like proper championship. but at least for single races you have a lot of options, like being able to use up to 1,000 laps, which I'm not even gonna try to scroll up to. Maximum drivers, a grand total of 24, counting yourself. Game type, different options. I usually only use custom, so that's where I'm gonna stick with. An option to use quick stops, so these are mandatory pit stops that game is forcing you and the opponents to take. Better actually take them, because from what I've seen, the game doesn't actually simulate tire wear and fuel use on other cars. I had a specific very long race set up with tire wear and all that active, and I just went around the track at snail space to not use up my fuel that quickly. The other cars were all going at top speed and just race pace in general, and they should have run out of fuel quite a while before I finally gave up on the experiment. There was no pit lane on that thing, and yeah, everything went on as if the whole thing wasn't active at all, and they just went around indefinitely. But overall, this is an amazing tool. Let's get into the rest of the options. You have difficulty, design, so on, and that's another buggy thing. By default, designs or user-created designs that anybody uploaded on for the single-player stuff. So when you're driving around, you will see a lot of cars just having liveries and designs on them, which is cool. But for some reason, it doesn't work with this mode. I always keep it on. I also try turning it off. Nothing changes. This is broken. This has been broken for years, and nothing got fixed, and I don't know what would be a more obvious way to describe the state of a game 27 minutes in, because this should be an easy fix considering it's working in another very similar mode, but they never updated this. I don't know if the devs are to blame, or if they just either never got informed about the bug, or got told to don't waste any time on fixing the bugs and rather implementing other stuff. The next thing, bucket options. That's the single most amazing thing about this game, because this allows you to set up your own multi-class races. You can score buckets independently, and that's the difference between, let's say, maybe you want to have like a Le Mans race where you have multiple different distinct classes. You might be driving around in a prototype and have other GT cars driving around as well. And they don't really count towards your own bucket or your own score. Or maybe you actually want to drive one of the slower cars, and you know you don't have any chance against the prototypes. Scoring them independently allows you to then have a race where maybe 24 cars are driving around the track, but you might only be scored with half of them, or whatever amount is in your driver bucket. You can group cars by bucket for the starting procedure, and you have some basic options for the different classes here. There are more advanced ones which we are going to take a look at in a moment, but this really is something that I can get a lot of enjoyment out by just setting up different things that you wouldn't possibly encounter in the career mode. You can choose between standing or rolling start, grid ordering, random, or maybe ascending or descending power index. And you can also set a roll-off delay. So maybe between the cars there's going to be like half a second or so they don't bunch up all the time. Again, the mandatory amount of quick stops and all that kind of stuff. End condition could even go to time. That kind of thing. It's amazing what you can do here. I mean, it also depends on how amazing the AI is, and that's something that we are going to get into in a moment. Now here are a few more options for the different driver buckets. They are all the same for those buckets. So you can set start the final countdown. So if you are not in the fastest car class, maybe that shouldn't be active for anybody else then, because they are likely just gonna start the end of a race, and you may be way off from actually finishing yourself. You can set how many drivers there should be in that bucket, so you can balance how many you have in total. For some of them I may have gone with 7 or 5 because I had that amount in mind for that subclass. And then you can choose the different divisions, which is a bit tough just looking at this mode because there are so many of them, and finding the correct one if you want to go with like the V8 supercars. I think it's Supercars Championship. Supercar Renaissance might be early 2000 supercars, like the Saline 7, I think. And it's really tough finding the correct one from all these options, but yeah, you can do so. And you have a lot of other options like going with a car class, performance index or something specific, and model family, so it could be like only 911s, specific regions, countries. Problem is, if you set it to Forza P1, for example, and now you want to say, I only want to go with Asia or Asian cars, yeah, suddenly the class is gone because it doesn't allow you to do both at the same time. So either have the entire thing open or you don't have it open at all. So that's a bit of a weird thing that the game just forces you to do. So you cannot pick the entire division, which will come with all homologated cars, and then say, okay, now only the European ones or the American ones, whatever, should be racing here. A lot of other options work intertwined, but this one sadly doesn't, and that means that since you can only have homologated cars in the correct and fully available division, everything else will be stock cars. So maybe if homologated cars come with racing tires and the stock ones come with sports, you either take the entire homologated class or you take the stock ones with sports tires and try to find out how you put them into whatever you want to make. Overall a good tool, but again it is kind of flawed and a bit weird at some points. And yeah, let's now take a quick look at some of the actual racing here. I'll be just quickly taking a different car while we go to a track. There are a few things that I want to show here, so let's maybe go with Le Mans to really get into this stuff. Because while having this multi-class race available is all nice and good, but there are a few glaring issues with it. One other thing that I wanted to mention is that you can also just have maybe a race that has just one bunch of cars, so they are all scored the same, but maybe some of them come from one division or one class and the other ones come from a different one, but they happen to be around the same power score, so you can mix and match how you want. For example, you can do a mix between the classic GT cars, the current day GT cars, NASCAR and V8 supercars. The supercars would be a bit slower, but the rest kind of fits together pretty well. The problem, however, when you really get into this stuff with multi-class racing and all that, you have everything set up, you are looking ahead for everything that will happen. There are a few glaring issues with VAI. God damn it. So, first one is the rewind tool. I'm going to rewind now. You see the cars are all kind of spread out all over the place. Let's see how it looks like when we stop. The next thing that's going to happen once I resume the race, every single car that is not right on the racing line is going to try to get there, no matter what. And yeah, they just bunch together. They do a bit of crashing here and there, and it's not going too well. Another thing that we can see quite clearly here is the elite factory racers, so the old GT1 road cars. They are all without livery and everything like that, as I said. Not even equipping aftermarket spoilers and that kind of stuff if they don't have anything on already. So they kind of stand out in a field of otherwise mostly race cars, so I don't know. That's all a bit weird. The next thing that's going to be a bit off, and I think I need to go slightly further to the back here, is the overtaking. let's just stick to one of the to some of the cars to the end, which is also why I took a fast car for this demonstration, so I can just keep up with them. So that's road version of a Mercedes. Mercedes is kinda not the fastest right now. I mean, it's kinda giving me something to worry about. But the thing is, those other cars, the other prototypes, they are not necessarily overtaking those very quickly. They can get stuck behind those cars quite often for a lengthy amount of time. The other AI cars don't make much space for them, even if they are completely outclassed. And it's often a thing where those cars, they will just drive right behind them and go out by like half a car width, so something like this compared to the car in front of me right now, and then they just won't be able to overtake. They are too close to build up any momentum or any greater momentum than the car in front of them, and even if they could outbrake them, corner them, whatever, they are barely making any use of that. So unless they can overtake right on the straight through acceleration or top speed, they are ever unlikely to do that, and even then they are often just stuck behind the stuff and not moving through the traffic as quickly as they should be doing. So that's a bit rubbish. I don't know if I can reliably show that here, but yeah, there is a bit of a queue behind that Lamborghini there. And that's for the GT division, so those are way slower than the prototypes. And it's just gonna... At some point it's kinda getting a bit pathetic, to be honest. I hope the next Forza will be better with that, but... Again, they delivered this. They didn't improve it. And therefore I'm not going to just rely on them being better the next time around. I'll be very critical about what I see about the game, and I'm not going to make a purchase day one. Despite me really wanting to move on from this game again, partially because of all the issues with the drivers and all that, but still with all the missing cars and tracks, I'll likely be coming back to this anyway. And there is a good chance that they won't be delivering a good experience at all. Yeah. See how long it took them to overtake that Expo there? The Lamborghini is also just stuck behind there, and this is still almost okay. I've seen way worse way worse cases where they just got stuck behind everything for half a lap or something, and that just kills every type of competition you can have in multiplayer, or not in multiplayer, but in multi-class racing here. So while I hope the whole free mode racing will become a thing again, and that it will be improved, right now with how it's all working, it's janky as hell. I hope they fix that. I don't necessarily expect them to until I see it. But again, that's kind of the whole point about this video. And you have some of the stuff of the rewinds. If you have like a lengthy pit lane entrance, that's actually taking a while to get to the point where the game actually takes over driving for you. And you rewind while an AI is on its way to the pit lane, it will try to get back on the regular track. And it can actually absolutely get stuck there for minutes until I think there is a point where it will do a hard reset and just respawn on the track without, just keep on trying. So they won't get stuck forever, but they will get stuck and will do so severely, likely costing them at least a minute of time. And they're not really taking much care of my own racing here. I'm just looking on what's unfolding here. Maybe we'll do another rewind for the ending, but I guess that's gonna be it. Those are really my main issues with the game. Again, driving wise, I still quite like it. I still overall enjoy the game, but it's riddled with bugs and issues, and I think the series deserves something better. I hope we get it with Forza 8, but I'll wait for the receipt. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I hope this was at least some funny to look at the end with how stupidly everything was. Oh wait, I maybe can give you one more thing. But that might be, that's only something that happens occasionally. But let's have a look at tuning and upgrades. So from this menu you can go into a test drive. And it doesn't happen here, but sometimes all the cars spawn on top of each other. Just a whole bunch at the same time, and I think it might happen at Watkins Glen. That's gonna be the last thing that I'll try here, and if that doesn't happen, then I'll likely just end the video. There's still another thing that I want to quickly show, but we'll see about that in a moment. So 2 more things. First up, going to Watkins Glen. And trying the whole thing here. I just want to go to the track. So yeah, the cars sometimes just all spawn spontaneously and all in the same place. There may have been another little mode, but I think that was through that, and it's just it's the weirdest thing how it works. Maybe they fixed that since the last time, but it was quite a severe issue, and it just looked hilarious because the things are actually bunching up and getting into a proper pile. Maybe there is, let's see, test drive. Maybe I need to go into this actually. Doesn't seem to be any other car on the track, so this didn't work. That's a bit weird. I don't know what triggered it, but sometimes it just happens and it's weird. I don't think there's an option for a test drive with other people. Would be nice if we got a qualification option in the next game. But yeah, the last thing I want to show that's actually really going to work is, let's just get a very short track now. There is an option to set the roll-off delay to something so long that actually the cars will come back around on the track, especially on a short one, before the last one of the regular cars actually left. So let's just do that. I'll go up to like 8 seconds. That sounds good. And yeah, the track is pretty short. I think about half of the track length is the pit lane. And the car should just come back around in like 40 seconds. If that at all. And then we should see how they react to the parking cars here. Sometimes they do pretty well, but usually they get stuck in between them. Just gonna quickly test. Nope. Again, I don't know what causes that, but apparently it doesn't happen right now. That was always the most hilarious thing, so I hope I could show you. Also another fun thing, since I'm lately starting at the back of the entire field, I know of course have the cumulative roll-off delay from all the other cars, which is over 3 minutes. I don't expect the video to go for that long anymore. But the thing is, I cannot even pause the game right now or go back to the menu. So if I set up something wrong here, I'd be waiting through the entirety of this roll-off delay until I can finally go to even stop the race or something. So this is happening no matter what I do. Can have a bit of a look to the back, see if something coming up, but right now not quite yet. But yeah, some cars at the front are rolling off, which is nice. But for me, it's still minutes of waiting. Oh, there we got the first car. And yeah, that guy just drives through without any issues, which is nice. Next car coming right up, going through without a problem as well. The thing is, they're likely going to go through with many issues, but then somewhere in the middle they are just gonna get stuck and get into parking mode. So this one driving through, and yeah, getting through the first few cars and then deciding to maybe just park in front of the Porsche there. And now he is stuck, gonna get the next car to ram into him. Come on, next one please. That one's taking a pit stop already. Oh, they unscrewed themselves, which is nice. I think that's the first one again. And yeah, usually it ends up with quite a pile-up. I know that this is not necessarily... that guy is also just sticking around towards the end of the field. I know this is not the usual and expected thing that you could do, but it's definitely an option in the game. I think the roll-off delay can be something like 60 seconds per car. So you would expect something like this to happen from that. And the game is not necessarily equipped to deal with it. But yeah, that's my look back on Forza 7. Again, overall, it does a few things well. But it's more fun, and at this point I think more important to talk about the things that it doesn't do well. And I hope that at least, if they don't deliver the perfect game from launch, which I wouldn't expect, I hope at least they work on the next game properly and do more improvements after the fact and not just leave it all half-baked. Because this thing here shouldn't be how this series goes. And with that being said, I think it's finally time to wrap this up. Thanks for watching. I hope it was at least somewhat entertaining and fun. Oh, I can do a rewind from here, which is nice. I think that Porsche should be fine. Maybe not. Sometimes I can get them to leave the pit lane and just go for whatever, but yeah, this is gonna be it for me. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Bye bye.